What's up, everybody? I am Brandon here from Dew, and I am starting kind of a little video series here for helping brew better coffee, right? So, part of our mission is we got a twofold coffee mission. One, we're going to rage war against bitter coffee, right? Coffee shouldn't be bitter. Two, specialty coffee should be accessible. So, I remember when I started into specialty coffee, like I was stuck. I didn't want that, but it's what I could afford. I wanted to go into this nice stuff, but I got treated like crap in these bougie shops, and then they charged me way more than I was interested in paying. So I kind of we want to hit that middle spot, right, where you have delicious coffee, but you don't get treated like you're dumb by some hipster in a knit cap and a nose ring. Nothing against nose rings. I do have something against knit caps. Sorry. Not sorry. But that's our goal, right? Is to make specialty coffee accessible and kill the bitterness, right? So one of the first things I wanted to start off with is a batch brewer, a home brewer. This here is my brewer. I have had this baby for over 5 years. It's a workhorse. I love it. If you haven't gotten a batch brewer or you're in the market for one, this is the one I recommend. It's the Bonavita. They have different variations of it, whatever. Mainly, I love this one. They are expensive though, I'm not gonna lie, but it's worth the money. I mean, I think this thing comes in at around like 150 bucks, which when you're talking about a coffee brewer, that's a chunk of change, right? I agree. Luckily, I got lucky because I went to Coffee Fest over in LA with one of my buddies who is a wealth of useless knowledge, and he won it in trivia and gave it to me because he had one already. So I got this sucker for free. Perfect, right? So I wanted to go over kind of the elements of a good batch brewer and then just how to go about it. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I am the most knowledgeable person. I'm not trying to set myself up that way. I'm just trying to answer some questions and help you get good coffee at home, because that's where it's at, right? It's always so frustrating when you go to a shop, it tastes one way, you bring it home, and it tastes completely different. I get that, right? Usually it's because of the equipment. First thing, let's start here. With the carafe, you'll notice it's not glass, right? It's not glass. There's no burner here. This is just plastic right here. This is like a vacuum insulated metal carafe. This is what you want. Burners don't help your coffee, okay? The little hot plates, like you see at Denny's, right? And we'll go over that in the next video. Actually, I have a plan to talk about that a little bit more. But this is a vacuum sealed, it's like a Yeti kind of a thing, right? So super insulated there. Secondly, the lid. I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah, you can see in there. That little hole, once you screw this sucker on top, that little hole is all there is for getting coffee out. When I started, I was like, this is kind of annoying because it takes me for frickin' ever to pour my coffee. But that's a good thing. One, that means there's no air coming out, right? That means it's sealed. Nothing's coming out of there. If you got a big old hole, you're just gonna have all your steam, all of those good volatiles coming out. Not what you want, okay? You want to keep it sealed. That's also going to be what keeps it hot longer because you don't have that burner, right? So you need to keep it airtight. So that little hole, super important. Secondly, you have your filter holder. I am completely indifferent when it comes to the type, if it should be a flat bottom. This one is a cone. I like cones. Again, I have no good reason for telling you that other than, just like some of the way that the little frilly filters are when it comes to principle, like some of the grounds get caught in the sides, you can't wash them out. Nitpicking stuff, right? But cone filter, just pay attention to what it is so that you buy the right filter. That's the important part. So that's what this is, right? This is your cone filter. Bleached filter versus natural filter. Doesn't matter. Not to me. To be honest with you, I've heard some people say that they don't like the natural ones, that they prefer the white ones because it washes more of the natural, the woody flavor out. So if you want to do a fun experiment, put your filter in, fill it full of water, let it drain out, and then drink that water. it tastes like cardboard, right? So if you really have a really beautiful coffee, a really nice one, you spent a chunk of change on it, rinse this thing before you put the coffee in it. It'll make a little bit of a difference. But again, for most of us who are chugging coffee at home or on the desk, probably not going to make a big enough difference for most of us, right? So at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm not rinsing my filter. I just need my freaking coffee, right? And I need it right now. So I get it, right? It does play a big role, but I get it, right? One thing that I want to throw out there is that these filters, they have, they're mass produced, like massively produced. So all they do is they just take it, fold it, and then they press it down these two sides. One thing I would like you to start doing is just fold it along the seam, right? So you fold it on one side, you can see it there, right? Folded, and then on the other side, fold it the opposite way. Okay, so what that does is it just, once I open it, you can see it kind of creates a nice flat bottom right there, which matches the flat bottom in there. So it actually fits now perfectly into, I lost my words. This thing right here, it fits nice into it so that it's not, if it's flat, it's kind of sitting off all wonky. It's never going to sit in, and however the water makes it fall is what's going to do it. So it's nice to control that a little bit. The next biggest thing is going to be portion, right? This here is my nifty portion control. Do I recommend weighing out your coffee? Yes, I do. It's important, right? To get the right proportion, brewing at a 16:1, so that means 16 parts water, 1 part coffee. So if you're doing 16 ounces of water, you would do 1 ounce of coffee type of a thing. That math mostly works out around a 16 ounce cup. But the biggest thing, one of the reasons why people don't enjoy their coffee when they bring it home is that they don't use as much coffee. So they'll use like 1 or 2 scoops and for the whole pot, right? Whereas the store where they're brewing it, they probably use like 8 or 9 scoops for the same amount of water, right? When I started in specialty coffee, I was shocked at how much more coffee I was using when I was going by the rules, right? But it's tremendous. We use a lot more coffee than most normal home brewers do, right? Brewers meaning like average Joe or Jane making their coffee at home. They probably don't use enough coffee. So what I would suggest, first time, measure it out a couple times. This thing says 1,300 milliliters max. Divide that by 16, do that many grams of coffee, and then kind of, see how it weighs out. It comes up to about right there in my coffee thing. Just kind of make a mental note there, and then use your scooper and just boop, 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 right? So I fill this thing up well past that, and I do it right there. So measure the first time so that you get a good mark, but then after that, taste it. Some people like it a little stronger, some people like it a little weaker, meaning more coffee or less coffee to water. So I actually like mine a little stronger. So instead of doing the normal amount, I'll scoop this sucker up so it's nice and rounded, dump that thing in, and then off to the races I go. There are, some crazy things that people do with the brewer, starting it, stopping it, try to get a pre-wet, all this nonsense. All of those things are important. They're not important right now, in my opinion. So when you're first starting out, one, get a good brewer with an insulated carafe, get the right filter, right, and put enough coffee in it. Start there, and if you're there, then we can go from there, right? So that's the first thing. Good equipment, right? You ask, okay, so what's the big difference between this $150 machine versus my $50 Mr. Coffee Ninja brewer, whatever? The biggest thing is water temperature. And we'll talk about it in the next one. I'm going to tell you how to cheat a Mr. Coffee. But mainly, coffee needs to be brewed between 195 to 205. That's the ideal temperature for extracting, and so you're not getting bitterness, you're not getting astringency, all of those different things. And the Mr. Coffees, they don't get the water hot enough. And because they don't get hot enough, it doesn't brew properly. So these machines have better internal parts, and they can get that water to the brewing temperature it needs to be. So if you have a Mr. Coffee, that's okay. Don't throw it away. The next video, we'll talk about how to get some delicious coffee out of that bad boy. So I hope you enjoyed this. If this added some value to you, let me know. Throw in a comment. Please give it a share, a like, show me some love. If there's any questions I can answer for you, please let me know. So I appreciate you and look forward to the future.